Good afternoon or good evening once again, football fans. Big Al here on this Wednesday, October 22nd, 2025, and welcome to the Week 9 college football television schedule and the announcers for every game this week. And I'm a bit late getting this one out and my rankings video, which is already released, so please check that out. Again, apologies for coming in late with these videos today. All right, so the week actually started yesterday with 2 games. We've got 2 more games tonight. We have one on Thursday, 5 more on Friday, and then we have the full slate of action on Saturday. So let's dive right into it. But first, like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. And off we go with the Week 9 college football television schedule and the announcers for every game. And we'll start with the 2 games that were televised last night. You've got Kennesaw State at Florida International, which aired at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific on ESPN2. And the announcers were Clay Matvick and Chase Daniel. And then at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific on CBS Sports Network, you had Western Kentucky at Louisiana Tech with Jack Gordon and Taylor McHargway. All right, we have 2 more games tonight, starting off at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific on ESPN2 with Middle Tennessee State at Delaware with Jay Alter and Rocky Boyman. Then at 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific on CBS Sports Network is Missouri State at New Mexico State with John Sadak and Patrick Peterson. Then on Thursday at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific on ESPN2 is South Alabama at Georgia State with Matt Berry and Tom Luginbill. Then we have 5 games on Friday beginning at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific on ESPNU with Columbia at Dartmouth with Eric Freedy and Jack Ford. On ESPN2 at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific is North Texas at Charlotte with Mike Corey and Renee Ingogila. On ESPN at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific is California at Virginia Tech. Anish Shroff and Andre Ware. At 10 p.m. Eastern, 7 p.m. Pacific on CBS Sports Network is Boise State at Nevada, Rich Waltz and Robert Turbin. And at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 p.m. Pacific on ESPN2 is Montana at Sacramento State, Chucky Kemp and Darius Walker. All right, now let's dive into the early afternoon portion of the Saturday schedule. You'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 games starting at 12 noon Eastern at 9 a.m. Pacific. And then you'll have another game at 12:45. You have a game streaming only at 1 o'clock. And then a couple games at 3 o'clock. All right, so off we go with the early afternoon portion of the Saturday schedule. On ABC, it's number 8 Ole Miss at number 13 Oklahoma with Sean McDonough and Greg McElroy. On Fox's Big Noon Saturday, it's UCLA at number 2 Indiana with Gus Johnson and Joel Klatt. On ESPN, it's Syracuse at number 7 Georgia Tech with Dave Pasch and Dusty Dvorak. On ESPN2, it's number 18 USF at Memphis with Matt Schumacher and Sam Acho. On FS1, it's Northwestern at Nebraska with Connor Onion and Mark Helfrich. On ESPNU, it's Appalachian State at Old Dominion with Doug Sherman and Teoka Jackson. On the CW, it's SMU at Wake Forest with Tom Brenneman and Will Blackman. On BTN, it's Rutgers at Purdue with Guy Haberman and Yogi Roth. On the ACC network, it's number 16 Virginia at North Carolina with Wes Durham and Steve Addazio. On CBS Sports Network, it's Ohio at Eastern Michigan with Jordan Kent and Logan Ryan. On TNT, it's Kansas State at Kansas with J.B. Long and Mike Golick Jr. Whew, sorry about that, guys. I have to sneeze. And then the last game at 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific is streaming on ESPN+. Bowling Green at Kent State with Anthony Lima and Doc Holliday. Then at 12:45 p.m. Eastern, 9:45 a.m. Pacific on the SEC Network is Auburn at Arkansas with Dave Neal and Fozzie Whitaker. Then at 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific, streaming on ESPN+, is Buffalo at Akron with Sean Kenny and Ryan Kavanaugh. Then at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific, on Altitude Sports and Mountain West Conference Digital is Utah State at New Mexico. And there is no broadcast team announced for that game. Also at 3 p.m. Eastern, 12 noon Pacific, streaming on ESPN+, is Connecticut at Rice with Ted Emmerich and Charles Arbuckle. Alright, moving on to the late afternoon portion of the schedule, you'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14 games at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Pacific. You'll have 2 more at 4 p.m., another at 4:15, and 1 more at 6. On ABC, it's number 4 Alabama at South Carolina with Joe Tessitore and Jesse Palmer. On the Home Depot Big Ten on CBS, you have Minnesota at Iowa with Brad Nessler and Gary Danielson. On Fox, it's number 11 BYU at Iowa State with Jason Benetti and Robert Griffin III. On ESPN, it's number 15 Missouri at number 10 Vanderbilt with Bob Wischusen and Louis Riddick. On FS1, it's San Diego State at Fresno State with Noah Reed and Robert Smith. On the CW, it's Toledo at Washington State with Ted Robinson, Ryan Leaf, and Nigel Burton. On BTN, you have number 23 Illinois at Washington with Jeff Levering and Jake Butt. On the ACC network, it's NC State at Pittsburgh, Chris Cotter and Max Brown. On CBS Sports Network, it's Florida Atlantic at Navy with Chris Lewis and Randy Cross. The remaining games at 3:30 p.m. Eastern, 12:30 p.m. Pacific, 5 in total, are all streaming on ESPN+, including Ball State at Northern Illinois with Jason Ross Jr. and Forrest Connolly, Massachusetts at Central Michigan with Evan Stockton and Reggie Walker, Temple at Tulsa with James Westling and Leisure Douzable, Louisiana Monroe at Southern Miss, which has no broadcast team announced for that game, and Western Michigan at Miami of Ohio with Michael Reggie and Marcus Ray. Then at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on ESPN2 is Baylor at number 21 Cincinnati with Mike Monaco and Kirk Morrison. Also at 4 p.m. Eastern, 1 p.m. Pacific on ESPNU, Oklahoma State at number 14 Texas Tech, Justin Kutcher and Dustin Fox. 15 minutes later at 4:15 p.m. Eastern, 1:15 p.m. Pacific on the SEC network is number 22 Texas at Mississippi State, Taylor Zarzour and Matt Stinchcomb. And streaming on ESPN Plus at 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific is TCU at West Virginia, Peter Souza and Craig Halbert. Now to the evening portion of the schedule. You have 4 games at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific. You've got another 4 at 7:30, 1 at 7:45, 2 games at 8, And the last game is at 10:15. So here we go with the evening portion of the schedule. On ESPN at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific is Stanford at number 9 Miami with Mark Jones and Roddy Jones. On FS1 is Wisconsin at number 6 Oregon, Tim Brando and Devin Gardner. And then the other two games at 7 p.m. Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific are streaming on ESPN+, including Georgia Southern at Arkansas State and Louisiana at Troy. There are no broadcast teams announced for those two games. Then at 7:30 p.m. Eastern, 4:30 p.m. Pacific, on ABC's Saturday Night Football, it's number 3 Texas A&M at number 20 LSU, with Chris Fowler and Kirk Herbstreit. On Big Ten Saturday night on NBC, it's number 25 Michigan at Michigan State, with Noah Eagle and Todd Blackledge. On the ACC network, it's Boston College at number 19 Louisville, with George Sedano and Rodney McLeod. On CBS Sports Network is Colorado State at Wyoming, Dave Ryan and Adam Brenneman. 15 minutes later at 7:45 p.m. Eastern, 4:45 p.m. Pacific on the SEC network is number 17 Tennessee at Kentucky, with Tom Hart, Jordan Rogers, and Cole Kubelic. At 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on ESPN2 is Houston at number 24 Arizona State, with Lowell Galindo and Aaron Murray. Also at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific on ESPNU is North Dakota State at South Dakota State, with Richard Cross and Taylor McHargway. The final game of the night is at 10:15 p.m. Eastern, 7:15 p.m. Pacific on ESPN. Colorado at Utah, with Roy Philpott and Brock Osweiler. And that is a look at the Week 9 college football television schedule and the announcers for every game this week. And once again, I apologize for getting these out a little late this week. I usually release these on Tuesdays after I record my NFL recap. So again, apologies. I'll try and be more prompt next week and going forward. And with that, my next video will be dropping tomorrow, as we'll be diving into my Week 8 NFL picks, both straight up and against the spread. And we'll have the injury report ahead of Thursday Night Football between the Vikings and the Chargers. So join me tomorrow for that. Like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Ring the bell and get notified every time I go live. Big Al signing off. Thanks for watching and enjoy the pigskin. Peace out.